So the next thing, so it was reported this week that Donovan Mitchell it's kind of rumored around the league that Donovan Mitchell is not committed to signing with the Cavaliers long term for an extension next summer, which is interesting because they just gave up a lot of assets to get him. And it's pretty much a rumor that he wants to go to the Knicks because that's where he's from. And and last year he wanted to go to the Knicks as well, and they didn't trade him there. So I don't know if you guys got any thoughts about that.
My first thought is like, I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like he's in such a good position in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, why try to force yourself a trade now? Like, at least give it a little bit. You have Evan Mobley, who a lot of people see as a generational defender, or even some people see as a generational power forward potentially.
Yeah.
And you have Darius Garland, who's already a very, very good point guard. You're set up, and they're both on contract for long term now, right?
Yeah, Darius is an extension. Evan Mobley still on his rookie deal. Jared Allen still has a few years left on his contract, but I think
I
they're
forgot
gonna.
about Jared Allen.
Yeah, but it's been rumored they've been trying to move him. They just signed a bunch of guys to some contracts. They just drafted Amani, but yeah. So the only guy that's not locked up for the next few years is Donovan. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I don't believe it too much. If Donovan was willing to sign an extension in Utah fully, I think he'll be fine playing in a Cavs uni. So
yeah, I think with Don, I think what that report from Tim Bontemps it was, but yeah. I think what he was trying to get at there was a little bit less of Donovan Mitchell is currently unhappy and he wants to go to New York right now. I think it's more he was more looking forward a little bit, saying, there's no fire right now, but I think maybe in a few years when it's time for Donovan Mitchell to really commit to a team, and he's still with the Cavs, I think it's worth being a little bit maybe I don't know how to say this. Maybe a little bit worried with what Donovan Mitchell is thinking about the Cavs long term, because it's no secret that he wants to play for the Knicks, or that he would really be open to the idea of playing for the Knicks. I mean, he wanted to last year. We all knew it. Gets traded to not Utah. He was traded from Utah. He gets traded to the Cavs. I think it kind of threw everyone a little bit off guard. I mean, I certainly was not expecting the Cavs to be one of those teams to go after Donovan Mitchell, and it's likely that Donovan Mitchell was also a little bit surprised by that too. So it wouldn't really surprise me if, maybe a few years down the line, if this Cavs thing doesn't work out too well. Let's say this Cavs team never really makes it out the second rounds, and this is kind of repeatedly a good team but not great. Let's say they kind of ceiling out.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell could definitely be like, I don't really want to sign my extension. I might want to force my way out. I just want to be in a new situation.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
You know what this team kind of would remind me of? If they don't, they're really banking on the development of Evan Mobley, obviously, which they should be. He's top 3 in DPOY this year. He's already very good. He has a very limited offensive game, but it's effective when he's aggressive, and he can still develop from there. But this team kind of would remind me of those grit and grind early Memphis teams, where it's like, unless the team fully develops to its, the one player that they're banking on to develop into the superstar that they're hoping, they're really not going to be able to ever get past that little barrier, because they're never going to have like a top 5 to 10 player. So
no. And I think them training for Donovan in a way actually kind of capped them a little bit. And it's hard because it's hard to guarantee any of those draft picks ever become a Donovan Mitchell. So it's hard to say they made the wrong decision. But you just, when you go, because they were like a play-in team before him, correct? Still lottery
so
team.
they were the 6th seed, and then Jared Allen got hurt and Darius Garland got hurt, and they dropped down to 7. And then Darius Garland came back 2 years ago at the end of the year, tried to pull him out of the play-in, but they couldn't make it out. And then Jared Allen did not play at all.
They lost to the Hawks.
They lost to the Hawks. They dropped fully out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
I would.
I feel like they kind of jumped and pushed themselves a little too fast with Donovan instead of maybe getting another lottery talent or 2 lottery talent to refine their roster.
Yeah, we see that a lot of times with teams who are rebuilding is that a team starts their rebuilds and it's going well, and then they make a bit of a breakthrough, right? Maybe they get one of those play-in spots, maybe they have a playoff berth, whatever. And then all of a sudden, they see that a big name is on the market, and they got to jump at it, right? Because it's like, we can't pass this up. We got to do it because it'll guarantee we're good. But oftentimes, taking that shortcut can actually set a team back and can actually not really work out for them down the line. It's not the exact same, but I think about my Timberwolves like always back in the summer of 2017 when we traded for Jimmy Butler, right? The team was on this trajectory that they weren't good right then, but they were probably going to be good in a few years and get better and better if they kept that team of Cat, Wiggins, Zach LaVine, Tyus Jones, all those guys, and other picks, right? But by trading for Jimmy Butler, then it effectively took a shortcut. Taking a shortcut in terms of it's going to guarantee they're good right now, but maybe it caps their ceiling a little bit too early and a little bit too low compared to what it could be later in the line. And I think that I'm not saying this is necessarily the case because I think there's a lot of stuff with that Timberwolves team that made it not work out, and not just like Jimmy Butler. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But
a lot of off-court issues.
Yeah, pivoting back to Cavs, I think that there is a chance that trading for Donovan Mitchell when they did could potentially bottleneck them in the future as to what they could be, or as to what they could have been if they had kept the core of Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, and all of their picks.
Agreed. And I also think they might have kept Evan Mobley a bit. And I know he's not a great offensive player, as you said earlier, Geoff, but sometimes when they're young and developing, like these players just kind of need to be given the ball.
Yeah, I would.
And when a high volume scorer like Donovan is just taking the ball away from Evan Mobley's on ball creation.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting if they do end up moving Jarrett Allen. I think you could see obviously Evan Mobley moving down to the 5, and I think that would really open up his offensive game where he wouldn't need to develop too much offensive game to still be very effective. Because he's athletic, obviously he's one of the best switch defenders in the NBA. He's one of the best switch defenders in the NBA, and he's a very, very good help side defender, and he's a very good one-on-one defender as well. So if he was able to play 5, he would really unlock his full defensive potential, which is already crazy, and as it is without even having full reign. And you would be able to allow him to play a much simpler offensive role with Darius Garland being able to be a lob threat, being a roller. He shows a little bit of a mid-range talent, and his floater game is okay. You could develop that a little bit for some of that dump-off work, which then you also need Darius Garland's offensive game to develop, which is kind of crazy to say because he is a very, very, very good offensive player. But he does have struggles getting to the rim because of his smaller frame, and he does have troubles finishing through contact. So, if he puts on a little bit more weight and he can work through contact a little bit better, and his jump shot can stay how it is right now, which also can be a little bit spotty, but his passing is high level. But yeah, I really hope that they can, make the decisions right. It'd be interesting. And one interesting thing about the Cavs is the year that they were really, really bad. So Darius Garland's rookie year, they fell in the draft from the number 1 or 2 odds to 5. Because the Timberwolves jumped up, the Warriors jumped up.
That's right.
And Charlotte jumped up. All 3 teams that were in the bottom, they got the top 3 picks of the Anthony Edwards, LaMelo, and James Wiseman. They fell. So they all jumped up. So they did not get their top 3 pick that they were supposed to get, which, it was interesting. But
it led to them getting Isaac Okoro.
Yeah, and Isaac Okoro, if he could develop a little bit more, that could be a really good piece for them. I think they just really need to keep developing the guys that they have. And I think the problem is that the offensive development is the number one thing for their team. And they traded for a guy that's very offensive heavy and takes a high usage rate. So obviously they're still developing together and they still can, but it's very hard. And I think that, they have to keep doing what they're doing to be able to have a chance.
Yeah.
I think like the first step we'll see, like if they want to win with this Donovan Mitchell group, like if their thought process is title contention, if Donovan Mitchell or they put pressure on the team that we're going to blow it up at some point, or someone comes to them and it's like, I want to leave, Jarrett Allen will be the first domino to fall. Like, I'm not going to really be worried until we see like actual pressure on other fringe trades of them trying to be like, hey, stay.
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
Once we see those, I think then maybe we worry about Mitchell or Garland or someone else maybe.
Yeah, Jarrett Allen is an interesting piece in this all too, because like kind of what you said, Geoff. I think the ultimate goal is to eventually move Evan Mobley to the 5, because he's got the size to play 5. He's got the versatility on offense, but the reason that they haven't traded Jarrett Allen yet, and the reason they don't want to move Evan Mobley to the 5 is just because I don't think he's physically ready to play the 5. I mean, we saw in the New York series that both Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley were getting absolutely bullied on the boards by Julius Randle.
Lights were too bright, baby.
The lights were too bright.
Whoa.
They got out hustled up there. Evan Mobley, he just wasn't big enough to keep up with.
Yeah,
Julius Randle on the boards.
He's not a very strong rebounder, which would worry me if he moved to the 5. But I think you could pair him with another guy in the front court who's a little bit stronger of a rebounder. And I think you could have some positives there.
You definitely could, but I think that's why the Cavs are a little bit apprehensive to move Evan Mobley to the 5 just yet. And Jarrett Allen, that's kind of why his future with the team is probably the most uncertain in the short term, just because they don't really need him next to Evan Mobley, but they kind of need him in the present. And he's a good guy and good for the locker room, according to all sources. So Cavaliers, super interesting, because they're going to be good, but we need to see what their ceiling is, and a lot of the margin moves with them really need to hit if they need to make if they want to make the most out of this Mitchell trade. That's when you start, like, when you have a superstar on your team and you want to go all in, push your chips all in. The margin moves are the moves that you need to hit on, even the 1% moves.
And you have to get lucky too. Like,
you do have to get a little bit.
You have to get lucky. So I'm gonna use the Bucks for example, because it was perfect. We took the gamble on Bobby Portis in 2021. It completely hit.
Oh yeah.
We took the gamble on Pat Connaughton in 2020. Completely hit. All of these pieces, these marginal moves that people don't really look at, they develop into good players. That's what has to work. And I'm actually like some of those moves that the Cavs made this year, or getting George Niang, which isn't the best player, but he can have his moments. He can be a role player that can do something for you. Getting Max Strus to come off the bench is also awesome. That's a guy that can, he can hit some shots. He can play some defense. He can, be crash the boards. He can do those little things. So you just have to hope that those moves hit when you make them, and then your ceiling can go higher. The one thing I would worry about with them is, even though they are going to have a really good team, are they better than a lot of the teams like in the East? Like, I think their absolute ceiling right now would probably be the 4th best team. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, are they better?
I don't see a way where they step into that upper tier of
tier 1.
Like,
are they better than?
Is there
any room? Is there any way that they're better than Boston?
No.
Is there any way that they're better than Milwaukee?
No.
Is there?
But,
there's probably a chance that they could be better than Philly if Harden's moved. And
we have to see what Philly looks like.
But even then, they have Joel Embiid. Like, they're going to be a good regular season team.
It's true.
So I don't know. It'll be an interesting team to watch over the next year or two.
Yep.